Vinyl Community YouTube, good evening. I've kind of teased upon it here the last couple of videos, but I'm going to go ahead and do my 2016 kind of year in review. I've still got, I think, one more coming to me before the end of the year that was released this year, but it wasn't an actual, like, the first time it was released. It's a reissue, but I'll touch upon that when I cross that bridge. So I'm just basically going to go through the albums that were new releases in 2016 that I purchased. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got a lot this year, and this was just such a great year for music. I really felt just about every album I purchased, I wasn't disappointed with any of them. So I thought this would be a good thing to do. Um, I'll probably do like my top 5 favorites, and I base my favorites on the fact of how often I've listened to the album since I bought it. Not necessarily, you know. I guess there's some albums I have that I probably like more than others, obviously, but some albums I just keep coming back to it and keep coming back to it. So I've kind of determined that my top 5 is going to be based off of that. How many, if I keep just listening to it, then that'll be how it comes to that conclusion. So with that being said, we'll go through, and a lot of these I unboxed obviously when I first got them. So I have a lot of these that are already, you've probably seen a video on if you've looked at my video history. This is a band called Candiria. This band is just a band I've been listening to for about a decade now, and they've been kind of off and on releasing records from here and there. And this album was just kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting them to be releasing anything, and then when I got this album, I was just like, whoa! Like they just. I told a buddy of mine they were feeling it when they wrote this record and they recorded it. Just real good, intense record. The album's called While They Were Sleeping. So that's a good one there. Another one that kind of caught me off guard was the Claypool Lennon Delirium Monolith of Phobos. I was just kind of browsing around one day and I came across this, and I thought, Les Claypool, listened to through Primus, and Sean Lennon I really didn't know much about at the time other than he's the son of John Lennon, and most people make that quick comparison. But this album's really surprised me. I was really impressed with this. It's like a psychedelic kind of rock album, and I can't say enough about this album. If you like psychedelic stuff, this is right up your alley. They did a great job, and I really hope that they plan on doing more projects together. Mastodon's White Walker. This was one of these albums that I purchased almost strictly for the cover art. I'm not a big fan of picture discs, but I mean, this is just an amazing artwork. So this is the track they recorded for the Game of Thrones, which I know Brent Hinds and maybe one or two other guys are actually in the episode. I think as somewhere in the episode, I think they're just kind of mixed in. I don't believe that they're actually like really the forefront. But big Mastodon fan, and the combination of that and that cover art I had to get it. Here's another one that I think is just a great record. Is Meshuggah's new album, The Violent Sleep of Reason. I did an unboxing on this album. These guys just are getting better and better with age, and continue to impress me every time they release a record. Iggy Pop, Post Pop Depression. When I saw that this was coming out, I was especially excited. The fact that the lead singer from Queens of the Stone Age was in on this, so I instantly pre-ordered it. It's a pretty good album. I like it a lot. It's not my favorite of 2016, but I like it. I dig it a lot. So Norah Jones, Daybreaks. I like Norah Jones. I'm into her real jazzy sound that she had, especially on like Come Away With Me. So when I heard she was kind of going back to that, I was very interested. And this is a good album. I've listened to it quite a bit of time, many times since I've gotten it. And yeah, it's. I've told people who've asked me about it. It kind of has the feel of Come Away With Me, but it's got its own identity. And if you're the slightest bit interested in kind of a mellowed out jazz kind of album, similar to that one, you'll really like this album. Goblin Cock is a one of Rob Crow's many projects, and it's actually a really good album. He's got this kind of the best thing. I hate comparing stuff. I really don't like doing this, but when I heard some of the tracks the first time, the first thing that came to mind for me was Deftones' Diamond Eyes. I just kind of felt like it was along that category or in that same ballpark as those guys. And it's a really good record. I'm glad he released it. I'm glad I picked it up. Giraffe Tongue Orchestra, Broken Lines. Try to get this to... This is a record that I've kind of become a big fan of Brent Hinds from Mastodon. So if I see him in any form or fashion in any project, I usually will go ahead and pick it up now. And especially when I see him and members of Mars Volta and Alice in Chains, and I just immediately was like, okay, I want to hear what this has, what they've got going on. I've been enjoying this album as well. I was pretty bummed out. Not that I don't think that they were coming to San Antonio area, but they were about to tour, and Brent Hinds broke his leg, and they had to cancel the whole thing. So I thought that sucked. Felt bad for those guys. They're about to go out and promote this thing, but another really good kind of heavy record that came out this year. Speaking of heavy records, Low Teens by Every Time I Die. These guys are just pure energy. I'm really big fan of them. And this was an album that I really thought was, it was kind of, for them, kind of experimental. I felt like it was a little bit different than their last few albums, and that's not a bad thing. I really enjoyed it. And again, these guys just continue to amaze me. They do a great job every time they release a record. And I feel like it's quality, and it's, always something that I constantly have in my rotation. Explosions in the Sky, The Wilderness. Explosions in the Sky are an instrumental band, and they just really kind of set just a really mellow, spacey kind of tone. It's one of those albums that you can just kind of get lost in, just listen to it, and it just kind of absorbs you and takes you in and kind of takes you for a little ride. And this was another really good release this year. I got the deluxe package, and you know what? I think this is going to be one of my next kind of show and tell videos I do. This one's there's a lot in this. I mean, it's like this quad gatefold, and the vinyl looks really cool. And I gotta show you guys this one. This one's really good. But yeah, another really solid release by Explosions in the Sky. Deftones bring up another new album, and they're another band that just age fantastic. They have just one after another surprised me every time. And a gentleman in the online vinyl community that I'm in on Google, he said it best. Deftones are a band that know what we want to listen to a year from now. And I couldn't have said it better myself. This band, when I listen to a lot of their stuff, I listen to it and I'm kind of like, yeah, it's okay. And then I listen to it again, and I'll listen to it again, and listen to it again. Before I know it, it's like my favorite album. Upon first listen, I like this album a lot. I still haven't probably given it the proper time that I want to, but again, I'm telling you, like in 3 months, I'm gonna be all over this record. It's just the way it is. I don't know what it is they do, but it's like they know. They're like before their albums are always kind of like a year before their time, and then it just kind of hits you, and you realize it's just an excellent record. Rob Crow was busy this year. Here is another one of his releases. I'm trying not to get too much of a glare. This is Rob Crow's Gloomy Place. You're Doomed to Be Nice. This album came out, I believe, February, and yeah, I listened the heck out of this record. It's really good. I'm glad he started making music again. This is another group that American Football, that I was not expecting a release from this year. And when I saw that they were releasing a record, I was just like immediately had to pre-order it. When they released their record back in was like 99 and 2000 or 2001, it's one of those albums I listen to several times a year to this day. So I was really, really excited for this one to come out. And I've enjoyed it. I can't say enough about them. Artifacts Perio Passengers. Really good album that came out this year. I like these guys. They're kind of up and coming on Tooth and Nail Records. And if you haven't heard them and you're kind of into, I'll kind of say the same bands, these guys kind of remind me of like Coheed and Cambria, At the Drive-In, Thursday, along those lines. You'll like these guys. This is a really good record. I'm really impressed with their growth, and I also look forward to them. Black Mountain, I'll be honest, I had never heard of them. And I follow the Foo Fighters on Twitter, and Dave Grohl had made a comment about how he listened to this record. He was kind of, I guess, in a writing funk, and he listened to this record, and it just like totally inspired him, and he started playing again and gave him a lot of ideas. And I thought for somebody like that to say that about an album, I couldn't imagine he did it for money, or he was trying to push him just to push him. So I blindly bought this album. Knew nothing about this band, and this is a great record. This is a very, very retro sounding album. They take a lot of influences. You could really hear it from different like classic rock bands, and they kind of molded it into one. And I don't really know how to explain it, other than just it's just got this really, really kind of vintage feel to it. And I really suggest you check this out if you're like a classic rock guy. It's really good. I was really shocked. Thumbs up to Dave Grohl for the shout out on that one, because that one's going to be one of my favorites this year. Wilco Schmilko. This is a very, very mellow kind of acoustic album, and I've been enjoying it. I like Wilco. There's one of these groups that I just feel, you can pretty much trust what they're putting out. It's going to be a pretty quality product, and this is just another really mellowed out, kind of, again, acoustic album. I can't really say much more than that. Speaking of acoustic albums, Jack White's acoustic recordings, I really enjoyed listening to this when it came out. It's got, from what I believe, he just took like a compilation of like every kind of acoustic song that he did over the years and put it into one big album. And it's really good, really enjoyable, has a great variety of his music, and it's kind of like the way I'm not a big greatest hits person. I don't really like buying them unless there's just a couple of them out there that I'll pick up. But this is kind of the way they should do it. Just take stuff like this, take like acoustic songs, really good acoustic songs, and put them all together and compile them. It's just loaded. It's loaded with all of his stuff. Thrice, To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere. Another, in 2016, if it was anything, it was resurrecting a lot of bands that I liked about 10, 15 years ago. Thrice kind of went on hiatus for a while. Their last record was, I believe, Major Minor, and I love the heck out of Major Minor. And so again, when I saw they were putting out a new album, that was just immediately just like, I have to get it. I've got to get it. I don't even want to hear it first. And I'm kind of weird about that when I get new albums. I really like to wait for my album to show up. I don't like to go stream it. Even though I'm dying to. I just, there's something about getting that album and opening it, or buying it from the record store and taking it home and opening it and putting it down. Be it vinyl, be it a CD. But there's just something about cracking the seal on an album and hearing it for the first time. And that's how I felt about this one, and another good release by Thrice. Stranger Things. I can't say enough about this show. I kind of, as I think a lot of people have, if you've seen this show, probably heard from somebody who watched it saying, hey, you should check it out. My wife and I watched it, and first episode is okay. It's all right. It's cool. It's real vintage feel, kind of early 80s setting. And I thought it was a decent show at first, but when I started watching like second and third, I got hooked, and we killed off this whole series in like a couple of days. And the soundtrack is it's an original score by kind of like a indie band, and it's really cool. Really cool original score, and I kind of hope they release the music that they played in the series, because they had a lot of good like late 70s, early 80s stuff, like the Clash and stuff like that in there. So I thought that'd be really cool if they could do that. But yeah, I was really impressed with this album as well. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I got this for Father's Day. What can you say about the John Williams stuff? They're really good classical scores. But, the fact that this thing had like a hologram on each vinyl, each disc is, reason enough to buy this. But, yeah, this is one of the cooler releases of the year. A lot of people were like oohing and on over that. So I thought that was interesting. I Refused, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of, okay. Refused, Servants of Death. This was the one that I unboxed recently. I won this in a Twitter contest through the record label, and I'm glad I did. I'm a huge Refused fan, and couldn't be happier with this release. Has some new songs and some live tracks. And finally, Radiohead's A Moon-Shaped Pool. Um, when I heard they were releasing this album, and then I saw this kind of deluxe edition, I kind of hesitated because this was a little bit up there in price compared to most common record releases. But when I saw that it was kind of coming in the deluxe package, and then it had the original master tape piece, and it had all of the CDs and everything involved with it. I just thought, well, what the heck, let's do it. And this is probably if I had to pick like the best looking album and the best packaged album, I definitely have to go with this one. Is probably number one. And I almost forgot one last one, which I did the unboxing for recently, which is the new Metallica record. Really like this album as well. Hardwired to Self-Destruct. And I really am kind of glad Metallica's gone back to their roots, and they're kind of releasing records more on like a thrash style than they were kind of experimenting there for like a decade. Not that I didn't like that, but I just, there's just something about Metallica and the thrash and the faster pace that makes it that much more enjoyable. But so those are all the 2016 releases that I actually I picked up myself. One that I didn't get, and I'm kind of kicking myself for it. And year's not over yet, but is Black Star by David Bowie. I really want to check that out. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. So that's definitely on my radar. And some releases that came out that were reissues that I really look forward to. Crash by Dave Matthews Band. Great album. Glad to see that came back. First Beastie Boys record, Licensed to Ill. Speaking of David Bowie, they pretty much reissued his whole catalog, and really, really Hunky Dory is one of probably my favorite Bowie record, and I really want to get some others like Ziggy Stardust. Prince put out his catalog, ironically, right after he died, and really sucks that he's dead. I thought Prince was a little weird, but the guy's a genius. It really sucks that he died. I'm still bummed out about that. Pearl Jam had a couple of good ones. Yield, my favorite Pearl Jam record, came out. No Code. And then lastly, Graveyard. This was not necessarily a reissue. It was just they did a yellow wax import. So think that is it. I think I caught everything in my collection. If I have to go in and pick a top 5, let's see. Probably got to go Black Mountain, and in no particular order. American Football, Rob Crow's Gloomy Place, You're Doomed to Be Nice, Norah Jones, really happy with that record. You know what? Hell, we're doing a top 10. That's number 4. Meshuggah, excellent record. Claypool Lennon, Delirium. Jack White's Acoustics. Deftones Gore. It's kind of a toss-up. Probably going to have to go with, on number 9, go with Low Teens by Every Time I Die. And I'd say this is probably my album of 2016. Has to go with Candiria. for these guys to just come out of nowhere like that and put out an album like this, I can't say enough about it. It's really good. If you're into like metal, in that genre, just in general, I think you should check this album out. I think you'd be really interested in it. But that's going to be it. It's a 25-minute video, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. I've got some news, and I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for this, but it's going to be, I'll have an explanation for it when I do my next video. I bought a Crosley record player, and I'll explain why when it gets here. So I just kind of want to leave it like that, and I hope y'all have a good evening.